Welcome to the very beginning of your FastAPI journey. In this video you will install FastAPI, write a minimal but real API, and run it locally with live reload. By the end you will have a working endpoint you can open in your browser, and a mental model for how all the pieces fit together. Before tools like FastAPI existed, spinning up an API in Python meant writing a lot of plumbing that had nothing to do with your actual business logic. You had to parse incoming JSON, validate it yourself, build the response dict, set headers, and keep a separate document describing what the API even accepts. Every one of those steps is a place where the code and the docs can disagree, and where bugs hide. Think of it this way: a waiter writing orders by hand has to do every step themselves, and mistakes creep in at each handoff. A point-of-sale system takes the same input and automatically handles the rest. FastAPI works the same way. You declare what your endpoint expects, and the framework takes care of all the repetitive plumbing, leaving you to focus on the logic that actually matters. FastAPI has 4 core pieces you need to know right away. First, the application instance created by calling FastAPI. This is the object that knows about all your routes. Second, a path operation, which is just a Python function decorated with something like @app.get. That decorator registers the function as a handler for a specific HTTP method and URL. Third, uvicorn, the server that sits between the network and your app. And fourth, automatic interactive docs that FastAPI generates from your code at no extra cost. Let's walk through this file top to bottom. Line 1 imports FastAPI from the FastAPI package. Line 6 calls FastAPI with no arguments and stores the result in a variable called app. This instance is the central object your whole API is built around. Line 11 is the decorator at app.get with the path /. This single line registers the function below it as the handler for any HTTP GET request to the root URL. The function readRoot returns a plain Python dictionary. FastAPI intercepts that return value, serializes it to JSON, and sends it back with the correct headers automatically. Finally, the uvicorn command in the comment is how you start the server. You pass it the module name, a colon, and the variable name of your app instance, plus reload, so the server restarts whenever you save the file. When a request arrives, uvicorn accepts the raw network connection and hands it to FastAPI using the ASGI interface. Think of ASGI as the contract between the server and the framework. FastAPI then looks at the URL path and HTTP method to find the matching path operation. If there is input data, the type hints on your function, tell FastAPI exactly how to validate it before your function ever runs. Your function returns a value, a dict, a Pydantic model, anything JSON compatible, and FastAPI turns it into a proper HTTP response. The key consequence is that you never write that pipeline yourself. FastAPI shines when you are building a JSON API that needs validation, documentation, and async support out of the box. However, if your task is a command line script, a fully server-rendered website, or a deployment target that only supports the older WSGI standard, FastAPI adds complexity without adding value. Pick the right tool for the job. FastAPI is a powerful default for APIs, not a universal answer. 4 things to lock in. First, 2 install commands and 1 run command get you to a live server. Second, the app instance and the decorator are the 2 non-negotiable pieces of every route. Third, returning a plain Python dict is all it takes to send JSON, no manual serialization. And fourth, your API already has interactive documentation waiting at /docs the moment the server starts.